Hi friends, my name is Bharat D, URK20CS 2113. Today we are going to do a feasible study on software requirement analysis. The given question for me is online voting system or e-voting system. Let's come to the functional requirements. Define election districts. The first thing we need when the election is announced is to announce the places where the election is going to be done. This process is more or less independent of a specific election. It is performed before the start of the election in order to define districts and determine the candidates participating. The next one is to determine the elector. We need to give the candidate who need to take place in the election. This process is an essential for determining the elector for the current voting process. In general, all the persons in the criteria, age and eligibility to participate in the election can take part as a candidate. There are some criteria given by the Government of India or Election Commission of India to take part in the election. If these criteria are eligible for them, they can take part as a candidate. Next one is the online setup for the election. The process is done after the districts are announced. An online portal is set for districts who undergo the process of the election. The other people cannot take place because only the certain district people can take place, because the election is only for these particular people and these districts. This portal can be used only by the people of the district and who are eligible for the election. Next comes the voter eligibility. Not every people can vote. Only the people who are under these certain criteria given by the Election Commission of India or our country can take part. Voters are given a certain criteria to vote. They are eligible to vote only if these criteria are correct, in order to avoid bad practices, malpractices, and to obey the Election Commission of the country. Next one is to authenticate the elector. This is performed when the elector is appear to vote his own vote in the election. It is performed in order the elector to vote according to his directness principle. Next comes the cast vote. This process is performed after the authentication. He or she who casts a vote in a way that protects secrecy, that cannot be told not only for the authenticated elector but also for the normal voter. It is a secrecy, and they could not, the others could not know who and which party they vote for. And the authorized individual records are updated, and the immediate result is being saved. Next comes the tally votes, where the important place comes here, where the results is announced when by calculating the tally. This process is performed to validate votes and determine the number of voters each participating party has received, along with non-valid votes which are not counted. This process takes place after the end of the election and taken to the supervisor and displayed to the public. Next comes the non-functional requirements. Non-functional requirements is a requirement that specifies criteria that can be used to judge the operation of the system. Rather than specific behavior, the plan of implementing non-functional requirements in this system architecture. The first thing that comes under the non-functional requirements are reliability. The online voting system shall be robust enough to have a high degree of fault tolerance. Example, if there is a valid entry of the system system should not crash and shall identify the invalid output of the procedure or a message. These kind of errors done by the voters during online voting system should be able to identify by the software. The online voting system shall be able to recover from hardware failures like power, etc. The online voting system shall impose a successful voter determination strategy in order to determine a success voter in order to avoid multi-voting. Multi-voting cannot be acceptable because it comes under the malpractice. The online voting system shall be available during the voting hours of the voting day. Failure and other natural catastrophes should roll back to the database to their most recent valid state. Next comes the security, the most important thing. The security should implement strategies to counter hacking and access by unauthorized people. The applications needs to be secure enough and should enable users to access it depending on the level of the user. Example, an administration will be registered voters. An authorized voter will only be allowed to vote. The unauthorized people cannot be allowed to vote because it makes big problems in the voting system. The election system must be sufficient robust with with a variety of fraudulent behaviors and must be sufficient, transparent, and comprehensive that voters and candidates can accept the result of the election. Then comes the performance. Response time of the e-vote should be less than 5 seconds or most of the time. If it is more than 5 seconds, it would be it is like a normal ballot system. It takes a lot of time, and the voting system will not go in a smooth process. Response time refers to the time that users should wait for getting the response from a system after querying it. E-vote shall not be visible for deterioration. It's not visible for other peoples to know who you are voting. It is a privacy thing. System requirements. These are the basic criteria or basic things needed to do a system, e-voting system software. Thank you, friends.